Good afternoon, Peter. From one Peter to another Peter, it's great to see you. How are you today?
Oh, absolutely brilliant. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, thank you for reaching out and getting in touch. Really appreciate the opportunity. So yeah, looking forward to it.
You are more than welcome, Peter. So welcome to the Business Spotlight. Could we start off by, if I could ask you to share a little bit about you and your background story and a bit about your business, please?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Okay, so you might have twigged on that I'm not probably a native of this island, so you'd say. So I moved over to Northern Ireland circa 2005, and then I was hunting around looking for an accountancy job, and I eventually got one at a firm just outside Belfast on the Printing Road. I think by default as well, because I think there was two people in for the interview and the first guy didn't turn up. So and I kind of coddled my way through it, but soon after that was the bit that I decided, I decided from a very, very young age I probably wanted to go into accountancy, and I was really, really glad of getting the opportunity with those guys. And I stayed with that firm for around about 8 years, and did all my training, got my qualification through Chartered Accountants Ireland with them, did a forensic diploma and all the rest of it. But I felt like the firm became a little bit top heavy. There was a lot of qualified people in there and not much room for growth. So I took an opportunity to move and managed a firm out in Bangor for about 18 months or so. And it was that point in time. After that, I just got married, and one thing led to another. There was the desire to start my own practice, and that kind of crossed over or bubbled over. So I quickly found out that was it. I was going to have to sink or swim, and that was it. I started off I started my practice in about November 2015. Really, is when I got going. So yeah, it was a very interesting journey so far,
And I'm delighted that you're still swimming.
Yeah.
What really inspired you to go out on your own to start your own practice, Peter?
I think I've always had a desire to do this. I think that kind of I saw a bit of a gap in the market, what I perceived to be a little bit of a gap in the market in the accountancy industry, in terms of how customer service related into the products. I feel like everybody's got an opinion about what an accountant is, what they do, that it's very kind of stuffy job, and it's whether or not you can bring that kind of humility or that level of customer service personality to the actual role, and sharing that with the clients, because really it's their story that you're just helping them tell, and ultimately reflecting back and giving them the sense of achievement. So that was the real burning desire. I think that this idea that when you're in that kind of practice environment, how you can do it, how could I do it better? I read a couple of those business books, as everybody does, the old Michael Gerber, the E-Myth, and I remember reading that. That was probably one of the moments I was reading that book, and everything, it was like, why do small businesses fail and what to do about it is the name of the book. But then he has subsequent versions after it, one which is about accountancy. And I was reading this book and I was going, oh my goodness, this read like the practice I was in at the time. And you're going, look, we could do so much better, we could do so much more. And I think it was that was the desire really to try and push on. I think also reflective is when you look at the Northern Ireland kind of market as it is, or people in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland's it seems to be like the land of opportunity. Anybody either works for the civil service or they're self-employed. I think there's only two forms that's in there in Northern Ireland. And so there's lots and lots of small little businesses out there, and they all need help, and they all could benefit from an accountant. And therefore, you can see the opportunity out there to really push on and deliver what you're trying to do,
You talk about different types of businesses. Who would be your ideal customer?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's an excellent question, really, because we are like a general practice. We cover all manners of people. So from anybody from a sole trader who's starting out with a bright idea, to people who are exporting stuff or turning over multi-million pounds, and you think that we're looking after them. I mean, we also play bit parts in far larger companies. We, looking after subsidiaries of firms with over 150 million turnover. So our scope is really, really, really wide. When you're talking about what the ideal customer is, the ideal customer that I would have, it doesn't matter how big or small their business is, as long as they're kind of in tuned or wired into the business. And by that, what I mean is not somebody who sees the accounts as like an expense line in January and they put it all off, and it's the dreaded tax man that's coming after you, but somebody who really sees this kind of accountancy as and the accountancy function as an investment in their business to help drive it forward. How can we do better? What should we be doing better? Should we be making investments? Should we be scaling back? Should we be pushing forward? And these are the ones that people who are really interested in their business are the ones that I get the most enjoyment out of kind of servicing, really, because you really see the benefit of what they're doing, taking on your advice, and also kind of reacting and shaping their lives. Because it's nice to see people grow and businesses thrive, really. So yeah, big or small doesn't matter, as long as that person's engaged with the process. They're for me.
Good stuff, Peter. I relate to that more than we have got time on this planet to discuss. So that's a really great point. Really great point. So tell me, what's been the biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
Oh, tell you what, it is an absolute roller coaster. Owning a business. And people often forget, because I'm looking after a lot of businesses or giving them advice, that they forget that I'm a business as well. So not only do I have to manage everybody else's finances, but I have to do my own. I have to sort out my own payroll, my own HR. I think what's the biggest thing I've learned is probably the idea that we don't get it right all the time, and you really have to be willing to make the mistakes, and you probably have to go through that learning curve of making the mistakes to try and get it right. If you don't get it right the first time, version 1, try again. Version 1 will be better than version none, and that's the real drive that you have, is that, look, if you don't get it right first time around, don't worry about it, chalk it off to experience, because the way that the pension age is going, we've got a long time yet before we can all retire. So you can continually keep going round and round, and it's striving for that continuous improvement. So the biggest thing I've learned is not to beat yourself up too much. Have your little sulky moment in a corner where you reflect on what's happened, but then look, get back out there, get back on the horse, and try and ride it harder and faster. I suppose that's the biggest take home I could give you. Yeah.
Tell me, who's the first person, Peter, that comes to mind whenever you think about success?
Yeah. It's an odd one, isn't it? Really, you're thinking about success for successful business people or successful people in my field. And I suppose the go-to you'd be into, well, look, Elon Musk, he's done awesome, and Richard Branson and the Alan Sugars of this world, and look, I love watching The Apprentice and Dragon's Den, probably like the rest of everybody. But if I'm trying to really think about it, like who would when I think about people who've been successful, I would probably, Peter, go right back to when I was at school, right? And my journey was a little bit funny. I went from a state school in England, and I did my last 2 years. I did my A-levels at a boarding school. I went to a really good boarding school in England. It's called Repton School, and there was a real flipping mentality. So when I was at my state school, there was a big beat down on people. Like they'd come and go, "Oh my God, you got like 95% in your test. Like, oh my God, you're such a swot, and you're look at you, teacher's pet." So when we flipped and I went to my boarding school, they went, "Oh my God, you only got 95% in your test. Like, how stupid are you?" And there was this real drive to try and do better. And I always then look to that. And if you think about success, what does that reflect in, or how does I come to that? The people who I was with, they're ultimately their parents, and some of my friends' parents who I got to spend some time with. I was really, really privileged to spend some time with some really, really successful business people, and they're not just the people who are famous and are on BBC, but they're people who are genuinely successful in the business world. So, for instance, you know, I would always look up to my friend. I've got a friend, Ricky Steele, his dad, Richard Steele. He's now the chairman of Portmeirion Pottery in Stoke, but he's had a long, illustrious career started up working with Next PLC, was a financial controller with them, and seeing that you know, what he was able to do for his children, what he's done in his career, you know, having caricatures of him in the Financial Times, really emanated success to me, really, you know, of what it was about. And I suppose it's those people who I think back, you know, and there's a choice phrase that he used to say to me, because obviously got to know him, which I probably can't repeat now because it's got very bad language in, but it was, the emphasis of it was work really hard, you know. So
Very good.
Yeah. So there you go. So,
yeah. I haven't got a beat machine, so
it doesn't matter how good your editor is. You know, there he is. Yeah.
So tell me, what about today, Peter? What inspires you the most today?
Yeah, look, I suppose that's a really tricky one. I mean, I could go to the classic answer, I suppose, is the family that I've got now. I've got a young family. So, you know, ultimately when you wake up in the morning and seeing them, patting them off to go to school or dropping them down, you know, they're the reason why that's the reason why I'm doing it, you know, for them and to give them a better life. So they totally inspire me, if I'm being totally honest, to be better and to do well for everybody, you know, and I mean the other classics is probably the staff in here as well, inspire me, because, you know, I feel a air of duty or responsibility to try and, you know, keep driving the ship forward, you know. So yeah, look, if you're thinking about who I get up for in the morning, you know, it's probably the kids and the staff in here and the clients as well, that I just want to improve their lives in general, really, to be honest. So yeah.
Excellent. Really cool. Really cool. So if it were possible, Peter, and you could go back and give advice to your 18-year-old self, other than pack your bags and get ready for Northern Ireland, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, and I don't remember any lottery tickets from when I was 18, and I'm rubbish at Grand National winners, so I wouldn't be able to remember any of them. I was just shouting tiger roll at myself. Yeah, it's an odd one, and this was slightly controversial, probably, and I do so probably with a heavy heart, because I had a lovely time there. It was a fabulous time, but I don't know why I would want to go to university again, if I'm being totally honest. As an odd one, other than life skills. Look, I suppose I moved away from home and I lived away from home and I experienced that. I mean, I drove home every weekend and gave my washing to my mum, so it probably wasn't, you know, I mean, it was classic student life. But I felt like you know, at the end of it, I'd amassed a huge student debt, and realistically, the skills that I probably learnt there weren't overly as transferable, certainly in the accountancy field, and I still see it now. It's not just, I'm not just poo-pooing Huddersfield University, because I think it's a fabulous institution, really. You know, I still see it now from other students that are coming out. It's those transferable skills into the real life scenarios and general practice of accountancy that I think are slightly missing. And I go back again to when I was in, you know, when I started work at Faulkner Stewart, I was sitting next to a chap called Paul Curry, and Paul, he'd left school at 18 and gone and done his accountancy technicians, and he was sitting there as a qualified chartered accountant next to me, and I was sitting there as 25, and I'd amassed the student debt, and look at, you know, some good memories, or some of them, you know, and like, you know, I was far further behind on my career path, you know. So yeah, I would probably say don't be as hung up on trying to follow that linear path of education that's set out, and just to really feel your own way through it, you know.
Superb. And so in 2028, it sounds more like a time than a year, but in 5 years' time, tell me what your business looks like. Peter, please don't tell me that ChatGPT has taken over the world.
Yeah.
Please don't tell me that. But on a serious note, how do you see your business in 5 years' time?
Well, I was going to say it's 2028. You'll probably find me in bed at this rate. So I'm getting older. It's 2028. Look, no, I would hate to think ChatGPT would have taken over the accountancy world. And I think like there has been advancements in the industry in the last what have I been doing this now? So I'm 18 or so. I've been in the accountancy field. There's been mad changes through digitization, and I think as a business we've had to pivot and provide different levels of service. Where do I feel like we are? Look, I would like to continue to push on. I would like to, one of the biggest challenges we're facing at the minute probably is staffing. So I would like to maybe get some good staff in there, help push the practice on, and be looking in 5 years. Geez Louise, the practice there would be really getting on. What would we be? We'd be nearly 13, 14 years old. You'd be looking to maybe a secondary base or somewhere like that, to try and push and develop the brand. We'd also like to try and pursue one of the models where we do some more outsourcing coming in from England, because I'd obviously have some good connections over there, and bringing work from England over to Northern Ireland and helping kind of bring further employment and stuff like that to the region, while following the mantra and not give up on our kind of core message of customer service and attitude, really. So to do one of these things, I suppose it's a slow process and a slow burn, and I don't want to be too ambitious to say I'll be skyscraper in the sky down at the Belfast Harbour or something, but I would like to think we can expand and develop the current base and push on, getting some work from further afield.
Superb. Well, Peter, if somebody has liked what you've had to say, or even they're a closet Derby County fan and they've spotted that behind you, if somebody wanted to reach out and get in touch, what would be the best way to go about that?
Well, and I'm very open to that. If we get to the playoff final, if anybody's got any spare tickets for the playoff final, I would be delighted. They're more than welcome to get in touch to give me those. But no, look, the usual channels. So that we do have a Twitter and a Facebook that people can like, share, and follow and see what we're up to. LinkedIn is always a good place to meet people. In these areas, some of the local networking groups. So I've done some talks down here in Cumber with the local Chamber of Commerce group, and do some work with Newton Ards. But yeah, and again, visit the website. There's the contact us button. People can get in touch, and and we can set up a meeting if it's a potential client, or if someone, like you say, if somebody just wants to come for a cup of coffee and a chat and see what the deal is, then I think these things are really, really important as well to do this network and expand and meet as many different people as you can. So yeah, all the usual channels, Peter, no problem.
Here, I agree with that. Well, Peter Bond from PMB Accountants, it's been absolutely fantastic to hear about you and your story. And I wish you and your practice and your family and everybody all the success for the remaining 66% of 2023 and indeed beyond. So, Peter, thanks very much.
No problem, Peter. Thank you very much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. All right. Thank you.